The world of the Elder Scrolls is filled with many fantastic and enigmatic beings, the most prevalent and influential being, arguably, the Daedric Princes. Demons, gods, manipulators, they have pulled the strings and shaped Nirn with their schemes and plots since time began. Some are good, some are unconcerned with mortals, and the vast majority are plain old evil. Hi everyone, I'm Pebble with Boss Fog, and in today's video, I'm going to try and find out who is the most evil of the Daedric Princes. So sit back, relax, and let's take a deep dive into this ranking. We kick this list off with the most benevolent of the princes, Azura. One of the princes venerated in Dunmer culture, Azura is the prince of dusk and dawn, day and night, and transition and change. Her realm, Moonshadow, is a beautiful land of silver cities, aromatic air, and lively colors flowing together in a cacophony of grandeur. Good, right? I'm proud of myself for that one. I know. Given the nature of the Daedric Princes, I am comfortable having Azura as the least evil. She often rewards her followers with her gratitude and her artifacts, namely Azura's Star, and seems to genuinely care for those who revere her, unlike many other princes on this list. That's not to say that she is completely kind-hearted, however, as those who have crossed her usually meet a not-so-pleasant end, but in my opinion, they kind of had it coming. Crossing a god does have its consequences. Overall, though, given the nature of some of her compatriots, Azura definitely stands out as the kindest of the princes, even when her wrathful nature reveals itself. Our second least evil prince is none other than Meridia, whose sphere encompasses the life essence of all living things. Originally a Magna Gay, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, a being who originally followed Magnus, the god of magic. Upon discovery of her working with certain Daedra, she was cast out and became a Daedric prince. She is known for her profound hatred for anything related to the undead, and will go to great lengths to eradicate them, rewarding her followers greatly for stamping out necromancers and Draugr. Her artifact, Dawnbreaker, is often given to her champions to carry out this task. Necromancers have a very bad reputation in Elder Scrolls lore, and for good reason. I feel like I should probably say I enjoy playing as a necromancer, and I fully support Meridia's hatred of me, so I feel like she does a lot more good than bad. Meridia has my stamp of approval. On to the next. I know what you're thinking. Who is Athelia? I've never heard of that Daedric prince before. Well, fret not, dear friend, I'm here to enlighten you. Athelia was the Daedric prince of Paths and Fate, who had a bit of a falling out with the other Daedric princes because of how ridiculously powerful she was. She could literally alter fate and the future, shaping reality to her liking, and for that, Hermaeus Mora decided that she had to go. He gathered most of the other princes to his cause, except for Vermina and Periite. Mora succeeded in erasing Athelia from the memories of everyone except himself, so he stored these memories in primordial glyphics. Eventually, Athelia was freed and tried to rebuild her realm and power, even draining Mora of some of his power in the process, but upon realizing that her powers would most likely cause harm to the world, she renounced her title as a Daedric prince and worked with Hermaeus Mora to open a portal to a world without magic, and put herself into self-imposed exile. A Daedric prince who would rather renounce her powers than use them to manipulate mortals is definitely a benevolent one. But since we know so little about her, I'm happy keeping her at 16 given the ambiguity of her nature. The supposed sister of Azura, Nocturnal is the Daedric Prince of Darkness and the Night, and is a patron of thieves and others who work in the shadows. While being a patron to thieves may imply that she is a nefarious prince, those who venerate her don't actually cause much harm to mortals like other Daedric Prince followers, and she's actually known to care for her followers, acting as a scolding mother and pushing them to be the best at what they do, according to Carla from Skyrim. She is quite an unknowable and mysterious prince, rarely appearing to followers and preferring to watch from afar, with her true motives being unknown, which is precisely why she ranks highly on the benevolent scale in this list. Most princes prefer to meddle and exert their influence on Nirn, for better or worse, whereas Nocturnal is happy to sit on the sidelines, have a few favorite mortals, i.e. the Nightingales, and just let stuff happen. However, I will mention that, along with Clavicus Vile and Mephala, she did try to invade Tamriel and remake it in her own image, so that drops her ranking slightly. We all have tantrums sometimes, right? Great Daedric Prince. 10 out of 10. This might be a controversial pick, but at 14 we have Jyggalag, the Daedric Prince of Order. Little backstory on our pal Jyggalag. He was originally considered one of the most powerful princes, but as you can imagine, the others didn't like that at all. Pretty dysfunctional family. So, the other princes cursed him to become everything he despised, madness and chaos, becoming everyone's favorite madman, Sheogorath. However, at the end of every age, Jyggalag is allowed to return in an event called the Grey March, seizing control of the Shivering Isles and restoring order to it, before becoming Sheogorath again and starting the cycle over. He's released from this cycle by the player character in Oblivion's expansion, the Shivering Isles, but we don't see him in the sequel, Skyrim. Overall, Jyggalag just wants order, and for beings to live by his admittedly strict rules of conformity. And while that may seem dystopian to some, I believe he's just a guy who wants everyone to get along, the very opposite of his counterpart Sheogorath, who desires unbridled chaos. Wouldn't mind having a beer with him and talking things out. Decent Daedric Prince. Yes, Hermaeus Mora, the Prince of Knowledge and Memory. Everyone remembers this guy. Octopus, Cthulhu-looking thing. He's known as a collector of all knowledge and will sometimes entice mortals into his realm in order to learn or take the knowledge that they hold. His realm, Apocrypha, is an endless library filled with stacks of books, ancient knowledge, and dangerous secrets best left alone. In terms of how evil he is, he's rather neutral, his only goal being accumulating knowledge and learning new things, not caring whether he harms or helps mortals in his search. It's for this reason that he ranks so highly on this list. Yes, Miraak was his follower, and he almost brought ruin to Tamriel, but that was Miraak's own actions, not Mora's, and in the end he does help us finish him off and end his goal of conquering Tamriel, even if it was for his own revenge plot against Miraak. So, Hermaeus Mora is just an okay Daedric Prince. Nothing more, nothing less. Next up, we have the frat boy of the Daedric Prince pantheon, Sanguine, the Daedric Prince of debauchery and dark indulgences. He's a little bit of a trickster, finding amusement in relatively harmless pranks like stealing a goat, desecrating a shrine, and setting up a wedding for the Dragonborn. You know, normal things to do on a night out. Other than these pranks, he's also known as the Daedric Prince of Sin. Think of the 7 deadly sins all bundled up in one neat package, which admittedly is a darker side to his nature. He loves enticing mortals into giving in to their dark thoughts, again for his own amusement, and reveling in the outcome of his meddling. His plane of oblivion is called the Myriad Realms of Revelry, which are numerous pocket dimensions where partying and excess flows like water. Honestly, in my opinion, he's not a truly bad Daedric Prince, and I'd much rather encounter him than some of the other princes coming up. But his nature makes him find his place within the category of princes who don't care for mortals, using them for his own ends. Hircine is an interesting prince to categorize. The Lord of the Hunt and patron to werewolves and other lycanthropy-affected individuals, he loves engaging in blood sports and, you guessed it, hunts. Given how widespread lycanthropy is in Nirn, he's considered one of the most worshipped princes and, considering how important hunting is for the people of Nirn, he's even invoked by hunters, trappers, and fishermen who pray for his favor when out on their hunts. Often known to congratulate his champions when they please him, he finds great pleasure in the wild nature of the hunts he organizes, even seeming pleased when his prey turns the tide of the hunt and becomes the hunter. So, why is he around the middle? I have 2 reasons for this. Number 1, his prey is almost always a mortal or mortals, essentially having them hunted by other mortals for his own amusement. Interesting pastime. And number 2, he's responsible for every werewolf and werebeast in Tamriel, a condition that, more often than not, causes harm to the infected. So, while he's an admittedly noble and widely worshipped prince, his activities and what he stands for knocks him down a few pegs in the benevolent scale. Malekith the Blackblade? Nope, Malekith the Daedric Prince. Malakath is the Daedric Prince of the Ostracized, Vengeance, the Keeper of the Sworn Oath, and the Bloody Curse. A little backstory on Malakath: he wasn't originally among the Daedric Prince pantheon, and the most believed tale of how he came to be is that he was, I can't believe I'm saying this, out by Boethia. He's the patron god of the orcs of Tamriel, who hold him in high regard and structure their society based on his teachings. He loves conflict and will actively push for his followers to engage in battles to the death for his own amusement. His plane of oblivion, the Ash Pit, is known as a barren wasteland, unfit for life. So, why is this battle-crazed prince right around the middle? Well, by and large, those who worship him and follow him seem to be content in the way of life Malakath represents. He only really interacts with the orcs of Tamriel, or those associated with them, and they seem more than happy to die gloriously for their god prince. The orcs also believe that, should they die well, they will be welcomed into the Ash Pit for endless fighting, limitless beer, and as many wives as their little hearts desire. To sum it up, to anyone else, Malakath is a brute, but to the orcs, he is everything they stand for, and if that's fine with them, he's not all bad to me. Smack dab in the middle, bordering being fully evil, is Clavicus Vile, the Daedric Prince of Power, Trickery, Wishes, and Bargains. He is very similar to a devil at the crossroads from folklore, offering mortals enticing pacts, only to flip the script and take whatever he gave back, mostly for his own entertainment. He also has a lot in common with another pact-offering god from games, that being Gonter Dim from The Witcher 3. He is more likely than most princes, save maybe Sanguine, to interact with mortals, and as such, is known to be summoned more than other princes. Given these numerous interactions with mortals, he also has many artifacts associated with him up for grabs in the games, such as the Mask of Clavicus Vile, the Rueful Axe, and the Bitter Cup, to name a few. He's also known for having various companions, such as Barbas the Dog and the Umbra Sword, which are actually parts of himself that gained their own sentience. The reason he's on the borders of being evil is because he's more of a trickster than a malevolent being, like Sanguine, but a bit worse. And while his actions can cause grievous repercussions to those who summon him, he does these things for fun rather than being truly malicious. He was also a part of the Triad of Princes, along with Mayfala and Nocturnal, who tried to remake Tamriel in their images. Definitely a bad dude, but not an evil one. Moving on. I had some trouble categorizing Sheogorath, the infamous Prince of Madness and the antithesis of Jiggalag. Being the god of madness, he is completely and utterly unpredictable, either harming or helping those mortals who cross him. His plane of oblivion is the Shivering Isles, which is a reflection of the landscape of his mind, with Mania being a colorful land full of overly happy residents, and Dementia being a dark bog filled with nefarious individuals and danger. Back to how he should be ranked in this list, I was torn. On one hand, I debated whether to rank him higher based on his unpredictability, which admittedly isn't his fault since he was cursed to live like that. And on the other hand, I debated ranking him among the truly evil princes because he is capable of some pretty horrendous stuff due to his skewed morality of right and wrong. In the end, I decided to place him just outside the evil princes, the reason being that he is more capable of harm than good. An example being him tricking Malakath into killing his own son, his goal of driving mortals to madness, and him consistently meddling in the affairs of Tamriel for, apparently, his own unknowable goals. I don't think he considers what he does as evil, but to mortals, some of his endeavors should be considered evil. Wouldn't want to encounter him. Next. And now we get into the princes who are, for the most part, considered wholly evil and a danger to mortals, starting with Peryite, the Daedric Prince of Pestilence and the ordering of the lowest planes of oblivion. Fun fact you've never heard before, and definitely not from the Skyrim loading screen. He's considered one of the weakest of the princes, despite being depicted as a dragon. Being the Lord of Pestilence, he is responsible for every disease and ailment that affects the inhabitants of Nirn, by extension being responsible for countless deaths, most likely more than any other Daedric prince. We don't know much about Peryite, and even less about his plane of oblivion, the pits, as they're inaccessible to mortals. He doesn't have many worshippers given his command over disease, reasonable, and rarely appears to mortals or directly interferes with the events of the mortal world, unless necessary. It might seem odd ranking a prince whom not much is known about this high, but his overall effect on Nirn can't be understated. Every disease, every plague, every ailment can all be traced back to Peryite, and a prince with his body count can't be ignored. Sick dude. Ooh, spider. Oh wait, it's just Namira, the Daedric Prince of Darkness and Shadow, commonly associated with insects, slugs, and other repulsive creatures. Where have I read that before? Her sphere is anything that causes revulsion and the heebie-jeebies. Also, more disgustingly, she is the patron of Tamriel's cannibals, reveling in the consumption and death of mortals, an act she consistently pushes her followers to engage in. Her plane of oblivion is known as the Scuttling Void, and unfortunately, not much is known about it as no one has traveled there and ever returned. But, based on her sphere of influence, we can assume it's filled with beings and things that would drive a mortal mad with disgust. Even her blessings and artifacts are a double-edged sword, granting boons as well as negative effects. In the first age, she granted a mortal named Weedle 3 blessings after he followed her looking for favor for 33 days. These blessings being disease, he could have any disease with visible symptoms, pity, and disregard. He became legendary among the beggars of Tamriel, being able to evoke pity from passers-by and learn secrets based on people's disregard for him. Her main artifact, the Ring of Namira, grants the player 50 more points in stamina, while if the player consumed corpses, it grants increased health and health regeneration based on the Skyrim variant. I'm terrified of spiders, so I think Namira is probably the prince I'd least like to meet, and her dark, disgusting interests definitely earns her a place this high on the list. At number 5 we have Boethia, the Daedric Prince of Conspiracy, Deceit, Murder, Treachery, and Sedition. One of the most violent of the Daedric Princes, they constantly go out of their way to do harm to mortals, even staging battles to the death between their own followers in order to win their favor. Oddly enough, they are revered by the Dunmer of Tamriel, along with Mephala and Azura as one of their good Daedra, who has guided their civilization. Boethia is quite a social Daedric prince, in that she interacts with mortals more than most of her brethren, but this is not a good thing, as they enjoy causing suffering on the mortal races, even turning on her own champions for no reason other than to cause them pain. Their artifact, the Ebony Mail, reflects their personification of secret plots and murder, muffling the wearer's footsteps as well as causing poison damage to those within its radius. So, Boethia is definitely an evil prince, but why are they only in 5th place? That has to do with their overall effect on the population of Nirn as a whole. Boethia has never overtly tried to subjugate people en masse, and even has a rivalry with Molag Bal, the Lord of Domination, which makes sense given their whole secret overthrow of authority aspect to their sphere of influence. Overall, Boethia is definitely an evil prince, but finds themselves lacking against the other princes coming up next in terms of how malicious they truly are. The Spider Daedra, the Web Spinner, the Plot Weaver. Mephala is the Daedric Prince of Lies, Murder, and Secrets, whose sphere is unknowable to mortals. Out of all the Daedric princes, Mephala enjoys meddling in the affairs of Nirn the most, turning friends and allies against each other, ruining lives, and also being a patron to the Morag Tong Assassins Guild. Along with Nocturnal and Clavicus Vile, she tried to invade Tamriel and remake it in her image, but unlike Nocturnal and Clavicus Vile, her sphere of influence causes notably more damage to the lives of mortals, which is why she ranks higher than them. Along with Azura and Boethia, they are one of the good Daedra venerated by the Dunmer, teaching them how to evade their enemies and kill them secretly. Their main artifact, the Ebony Blade, is a horrific weapon which increases in power if the player murders someone close to them, with Mephala reveling in the betrayal and bloodshed her champion causes when wielding it. Putting Mephala at number 4 makes sense to me given their delight in the suffering of mortals, and the pleasure she gets from the lives she's ruined, so, due to this sadistic streak, they rank highly indeed. You really don't want to encounter this prince after you've fallen asleep. Vermina is the Daedric Prince of dreams, nightmares, and evil omens, and is a very, very, very bad prince. Unlike other princes, who delight in physically tormenting mortals, Vermina prefers to psychologically torment them, taking great pleasure in invading dreams and turning them to nightmares. Their realm of oblivion, Quagmire, giggity, is a constantly changing landscape of terror. Every nightmare, every fear, you can find it here. The artifact associated with Vermina, the Skull of Corruption, is a staff that either creates a corrupted double of the target that attacks them in the early games, or does 20 points of damage, increased to 50 if powered by dreams, in Skyrim. Like Mephala, Vermina hasn't caused a mass calamity event in Skyrim per se, but their clear enjoyment of torturing mortals psychologically is the reason they're so high on this list. They go out of their way to do harm to mortals, and for that, they land at number 3. And we're into the top 2 most evil Daedric Princes, with Mehrunes Dagon taking the silver medal. Dagon is a Daedric Prince of destruction, revolution, energy, change, and ambition. Out of all the princes in the Pantheon, Dagon has tried to invade and destroy Tamriel the most, with it becoming a common theme for him to invade at least once an age, only to be booted back to oblivion. He has razed entire cities to the ground, putting their populations to the sword, with his most infamous invasion being the Oblivion Crisis, which was stopped when a literal god, Akatosh, intervened and sent him packing. His plane of oblivion is called the Deadlands, and is a realm of fire, destruction, and danger. He is the main enemy of every living being in Nirn, having nothing but contempt and hatred for the immortal races. Not even his followers and champions are safe from his wrath, with him frequently putting them in life or death situations just for his own amusement. I had a tough time picking between number 1 and 2, as they're both very evil princes, but unlike our number 1 prince, Mehrunes Dagon isn't quite as sadistic. Yes, he's awful, but I'd rather be destroyed than live through what the next prince would do to us mortals. Finally, we've reached the number 1 spot, and surprise surprise, it's the fearsome Molag Bal, the Daedric Prince of domination, corruption, vampirism, slavery, and a certain 4-letter word that'll get this video age-restricted that rhymes with tape. His goal is to consume the souls of mortals and to bring mortals under his sway by spreading seeds of strife and discord. His most famous act would have to be when he tried to merge Nirn with his own realm of Cold Harbor during the event of the Elder Scrolls Online. This event was only stopped by the player character with the help of another Daedric prince, Meridia, with the player character assuming the powers of a god through the Amulet of Kings to defeat Molag Bal. Speaking of Cold Harbor, it is a corrupted copy of Nirn where the ground is sludge, the landscape is destroyed, the sky burns, and the air is freezing. Like Mehrunes Dagon, he has also destroyed entire cities and their populations without remorse. He is also known as the father of vampires, with the first known vampire being created through Molag Bal defiling a woman, earning him the title King of that 4-letter word I mentioned earlier. This act of defilement is mirrored in how pure-blooded vampires have been created throughout the ages, with females wanting to gain vampirism directly from Baal having to go through the same horrific ritual in order to become pure-blooded vampires, offering themselves to the Daedric Prince. That's right, not even those who follow him are safe from his depravity. A deity who seeks enslavement, domination, depravity, and sadism is truly an evil one, and, to me at least, that is more than enough to give Molag Bal the title of the most evil Daedric Prince in the Pantheon. Fuck this guy. And that's the end of the video. I hope you all enjoyed it. The Elder Scrolls is filled with interesting deities, and ranking the Daedric Princes in this way has been both fun and interesting. If you have any comments on how I rank them, if you change anything, or just have anything to add, feel free to leave a comment down below. I love reading them. But anyway, thank you again for watching. Like and subscribe if you'd like to see more of this type of video, and I'll see you all in the next one.